To complete the Morph 1 and Morph 2 files, we're going to start by copying this shape and pasting it over here to the right where it says after. So the first thing I'm going to suggest is let's add a new layer. Right now we have one layer, the original, and that has this square and it has the text for before and after. Let's just make a new layer. And maybe you call it Morph. You can label it however it makes sense to you. And let's go back now. I'm clicking and dragging using my selection tool. I've selected the square and I'm copying it. And now I'm going to click on the new layer called Morph, and I think I'll lock the original. And now I'm going to paste my copy onto my new layer called Morph, and I'm just placing it over here. So you can see I have one keyframe on Morph and one keyframe on original. While I have that keyframe selected, I'm going to press F6 to add a new keyframe. You can only make changes on a keyframe. So F6, and now I'm going to deselect it, and just using my selection tool, I'm going to hover over the edge and make a change. F6, oops, I didn't want to move it. Hover and change. F6, hover and change. F6, again, hover and change. Now I can make some tweaks. There's some points still showing, but what I want you to notice is each keyframe here in the timeline, there's been one slight change to the shape. So keyframe 1 is square. Keyframe 2 has started to rounding more, rounding. Now I could F6 again and just continue going around, just trying to tweak it, get rid of those corners. F6, I'm adjusting a little bit more. F6, adjusting more. F6, adjusting more. So let's drag the playhead back and look at this. I'm going to press play. There's the remote player up top. I can hit loop and let it just continue. We want to adjust the bracket if you're looping so that it plays the whole sequence. Otherwise you get that twitching look. Okay, that's all right. And we could keep that going for as long as you wanted. Now, right now, this file is set up at 12 frames per second. I can just click on the stage, which is this background area, and look in my properties panel. And somewhere over here, look at that. We have FPS, which is up here as well, FPS, frames per second. This file is set to 24 frames per second. So right now, I barely have half a second's worth of animation. Maybe we'll just change that to 12. Don't go below 12, then it really is twitchy. Let's see how it looks now. I just pressed Command Return so it can just make its own SWF or movie file. And there we have it. We have a little bit of a morph going on from square to circle. And we could extend this as far as we want to keep it going. Next, the second morph. We simply want to morph this hex shape into some sort of starfish shape. Again, let's just make ourselves a new layer. It's always easier to keep things on separate layers. Okay, let me lock the original. We're going to oh, I locked it. That's silly. Okay. I select, I copy, I lock the original layer and click on the keyframe for the new layer. Put it in place, and again we're going to add new keyframe. For every change, add new keyframe, F6. Now if you don't remember your shortcuts, you can always go up to Insert and Timeline. Since the keyframes are on the timeline, it makes sense to go to Timeline, and you could just insert a keyframe or a blank keyframe. We haven't really done anything with blanks yet, but now we're going to just make ourselves some slight changes each time. And we're going to do the same process again. Notice though, each time I add a keyframe, the artwork comes up selected, and I'm deselecting it before I try to make any change, and that's because if I click on it while it's selected like that, it's just simply moving it instead of letting me alter the look. And we're just keeping it. Let's just F6. Okay. Yeah, why not? Now yours does not have to look exactly like mine. It's the process that I want you to be able to do. And we're going to F6 again, and maybe we have them twitch a little in different directions. And I seem to have gotten an extra frame here somehow. So I'm just going to click and drag to select and remove some frames. So let's see what we have here. Look at that. And press play or command return to get a movie file. Okay, so Morph 1 and 2. We just simply, instead of editing the shapes like we did in 5, now we actually wanted to animate the edit. And you can pull the script or scrub the playhead back and forth to see what you've done. Press the play on top of the timeline or command return to see it continually change.